Okay, hi everybody, and we're back for part two, which we already did, but the sound wasn't on for some strange reason. So we're doing part two on this. This first piece here is just a sort of a collection of people that I draw, that I'm interested in, that I find interesting. Whether they're real or not real, I think they might be real or based on actual people, that creatures that actually exist. And I'm just here with them and talking about them. We have some reptilians back here. Just want to tell you that not all reptilians are bad people, just like all human beings aren't bad people. We have some real scumbags out there, but most of the people are actually pretty decent, and decent to wonderful. So we have that going. These gray characters back here probably, would come under the sort of the gray, the zeta reticuli, whatever the zetas, maybe they might be the zetas. It's possible, although they're supposed to be really short, but some of them are tall, interestingly enough. And then we have, of course, the infamous Men in Black. Men in Black have been around for, apparently, if you do the research, hundreds and hundreds of years. And what they do is they warn people. I don't know who they're working for, but they warn people not to talk about their UFO sightings. If there's a farmhouse somewhere and a UFO lands in a field and suddenly little creatures are getting out, running around it and doing some repair work, and then they kind of beam back up. Well, a day or two later, an old Cadillac or a Lincoln or something will pull up to their house, and these strange looking men get out and they knock on the door and they say it would be good for your health not to talk about what you saw the other day. And so that seems to be what they do. They're agents of something or someone, but we don't know who, and we'll probably never find out. Well, maybe we will someday, but they're certainly not telling us anything about themselves. So we just have to, assume that they're, working for who knows, whether it's a ET entity or whether it's the breakaway civilization or the dark forces, whatever it is. But they're just there, and it's interesting that they like driving old cars. That part of them I really like. Threatening us because we might talk about something that we saw in the sky or something we saw landing out in the field. That bothers me a little bit, and they shouldn't worry about it because, most people don't believe that stuff anyway. Well, let's move on to the next one here. This is a whole series I did of old cars and ETs. And so just picture this in your mind. You're on a planet in a galaxy far, far away. I'm sorry, I had to use that shop-worn cliche, but that's just the way it is. And no one's ever heard of you, no one knows who you are, and you're on this, well, no one here knows who you are because you're too far away, but on this planet, in this unknown galaxy somewhere, what are there, 300 billion galaxies, which is really hard to imagine. Anyway, so on this planet, in the solar system, in the galaxy, on this planet, there's some people that have been tasked with going into outer space and traveling zillions of light years to find out what's really going on there. Maybe finding another civilization that might be friendly, worth knowing, whatever. And suddenly they're flying along and they end up in this solar system and they see Earth and they realize that through whatever means that the planet Earth, well, they know it's a water planet, they can see that, but also that the people living on planet Earth are surface dwellers. They don't live underneath, they're not subterraneans, they live on the surface. And so they decide, well, let's put down there, we can land someplace and get some water and gas up, metaphorically speaking, and be on our way. So they find this big field somewhere out west, and as they get closer and they land, they see these old cars, like for instance this, a 58 Buick Special, and they're looking at this thing and they're saying, what the hell is that? Now, just picture yourself coming from a place very far away and coming to planet Earth and seeing something that's out in the field. Would you know what it is? You wouldn't know. You know, they're not going to say, oh, that's a 1958 Buick Special. They're not going to do that. They're not going to know. So they're looking for, well, does this have a power source? What's all this chrome? What's that for? They're looking for some way to possibly justify it as a machine that somehow might be partially responsible for supporting life. They don't really know what it is. So they look it over, and it's obviously not threatening them in any kind of way, so they're very gentle with it, but they don't know what it is. And the same with this one, this 1958 Buick. Then we have the 1952 Pontiac Chieftain. This one is pretty much like the other one. They don't know what it is. It's a different car in a slightly different location. They're looking at it and trying to figure out what that big chrome stripe strip is that runs down the center of the hood. They're looking at this and they're just absolutely not understanding what this is for, what purpose it is. It's just this big piece of metal and nuts and bolts, and it's out there decaying in the field, and what is this thing? What's it for? And so that basically is the basis of these pieces here. The tension being, there should always be tension in art, and the tension being, of course, is the fact that you've got this old car and these creatures from some other part of the universe, and that creates a little tension there. So anyway, that's so much for that. This here is a piece of an interesting little drama that's unfolding here. We have a general who's completely out of his mind. He's just one of those creepy, warmongering, uniform-wearing generals, and what he's doing is they're doing maneuvers out in the desert, perfecting and developing ways to kill more people, of course. That's what they do. And suddenly these creatures come down, these three beings, and they don't seem to have a lot of substance. They seem almost maybe translucent or something. But they're very peaceful. They're not threatening anybody, but the general is freaking out because this is not something that is part of his reality. And so this really just creeps him out no end. And in fact, he's so angry, he's almost morphing into a reptile, which you can look at his eyes, and he has these little slits for pupils, which suggests that, and that he's obviously got some issues hanging on to his human identity. Maybe that's what it is. And so that's pretty much the gist of that. This one here, of course, we're going over to a manufacturing plant that makes the crap that they're putting in planes that we know as chemtrails that cover the sky with all of these chemicals. And this operation here is called SkyChem Corporation, Geoengineering and Weather Modification for a More Profitable World. Of course, the guys that make this stuff, they don't care about us. They just want to make lots and lots of money. They're money junkies. And this guy here is Mr. Shitecrapper, who was riding in the back seat of his Lincoln Town car. We have a driver here, and the car suddenly stops. The motor dies for no particular reason. They don't know what happened. And then they see these guys floating down, and of course, Mr. Shitecrapper is freaking out. He doesn't know what to do, and he's talking. There's a little drama going on here. The driver says, Boss, I can't get the car started. And Mr. Shitecrapper says, it's them. It's those outer space creeps. They're after us. They're going to kill us. I've got to get the hell away from here. I got friends in the Pentagon. I'll fix those bastards once and for all. You know, this is how somebody who thinks chemtrails are wonderful would react to something like that. That's kind of the gist of it. Over here is another strange phenomenon. This is one that I did after reading quite a few articles about black goo. And of course you're saying, what? Black goo? What's that? You know, well, it's not something that I made up. And so I'll just read briefly here, because I have a description of what's going on here and explaining what black goo is. I'll just read a little bit of this here. It says, what is black goo? I know it sounds wacky. However, it's not wacky at all. It's downright creepy, and mostly because it's true. Picture a big glob of used industrial gear lube. Black, shiny, gooey, or better yet, a puddle of black congealed oil-based paint. Only it's not paint or gear lube, it's a synthetic, programmable life force consisting of billions and billions of nanoparticles that can run an artificial intelligence program. It's highly advanced nanotechnology that, if ingested by humans or anything else, can, among other things, being a controlling device. It's been said that black goo is used in tattoo ink, so it's possible for someone with just one tattoo under their skin to be under the control or thrall of black goo nanoparticles. This suggests that there is some kind of intelligent life giving orders to the black goo. The growth of nerve endings which allows it to actually bond to said nerve endings, which then has a direct connection to the brain via the central nervous system. And there's more here, read about it. But this is something that actually happened, and it happened, it sort of manifested back in the, I don't know when it was, the 70s, when Argentina decided to take back the Falkland Islands. They decided England was in control of the Falkland. Falkland Islands were England was a protectorate of these islands. They sort of had a base there, and they were kind of running that island. They sort of controlled it, or sort of owned it for all practical purposes. And the Argentinians decided, no, this is our land. This is our island. This is in our ocean. This is our neck of the woods. We're going to take this back. And when that happened, England sent all these battleships down there to take back their island. And one might ask, well, what does England care about these little islands down there? Why don't you just leave those people alone? Well, it's not that easy. And a lot of it had to do with black goo, which is where a lot of this black goo is found. And what they do with it, what interest they have in the black goo is, we don't know, but somehow they didn't want to let go of these islands, which were full of black goo. And so there was a war, there was some ships fighting, and people died, and eventually the Argentinians said, well, it's not worth it, just go ahead and take the goddamn island. So that's what happened. But subsequently to that, there was a lot of investigation and a lot of looking into this black goo, and there's some people who have done a lot of work on this and know a lot about it. I can't think of their names offhand. I'm not scripted here. I don't have a sheet of paper with all these facts on it. I just kind of know what happened, having read about it. And so that's a really interesting thing to look at. And as I said before, it's important that we look into these things. Don't just look at me as some kind of a whack job that wears a tinfoil hat. I have looked into these things. I've done a considerable amount of research, and it's important that you do research, that you find out about these things rather than just, buy into the, or go along with the whole idea that when anybody comes up with an idea that's a little odd, to react by saying these people are crazy, they're out of their minds. So it's important that you react positively about it and actually do some research and realize that what you've been told, whether it's the movies, whether it's television, whether it's the internet, whether it's newspapers, doesn't matter what it is, they're telling you a crock of shit. It's most of it, 90% of it is not true. All it is a mind program. It's mind control. So you have to understand that and start thinking for yourself rather than depending on other people to make your decisions, to give you the correct information, because they're not going to give you correct information. They never have and they never will. So it's up to you to find out the facts about things, find out what's really going on to create your own reality rather than, just sort of going along with this consensus reality bullshit. And that's pretty much it. And we'll just leave it there. But now you have an idea of what I do and why I do it. And so we'll just leave it there.